What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. A big thank you to Underdog for sponsoring today's video, and a big thanks to all you guys for liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell, as I do post new Warriors videos daily, and it does help the channel to continue to grow as the season moves along. Now, we are about to hit the halfway point of our 8-game homestand, and the Warriors, 2-1 so far. Not bad, but it could be better. That loss against the Hawks was a tough one, but looking forward to this game against the Blazers, this is the first of what I like to call the prove it games, because the Blazers have had the Warriors number all season long, and it's been tough to watch. The Warriors have blown leads. The Blazers have outplayed the Warriors, and I think just having the Warriors get a solid win and maintaining the game, because we know that the Warriors can beat the Blazers. The Blazers are good, but they're not that good. The Warriors are definitely the better team, and it's mostly on them for making stupid mistakes and letting the Blazers take advantage of these mistakes. On top of that, what this game also brings to the table is the fact that the Warriors, they do get to view some potential trade targets in the likes of Robert Williams and Jeremy Grant. Now, those aren't what I would call the best trade targets in exchange for Jonathan Kuminga, but they are guys that the Warriors are and should continue to look at, because one, they do need to fill out their center position, as it's becoming an exceedingly let's call it a very, very big problem, because teams are taking full advantage of the fact that, yes, they have no post presence, so you could just send a big guy down there to pretty much have his way with their small ball center, which most of the time is Draymond Green. And when Draymond gets frustrated, what does he do? He acts out and gets technicals and kicked out of the game. Yes, you could put Quentin Post in there. Yes, you can put Al Horford in there, but they can only be tough for so long. And some of these better centers are just going to have a field day with them too. Now, on top of that, I do like that it's, like I said, I do like that it's the prove it point of the homestand. After this game, you have the game against the Knicks, and then a pretty much easy game against the Hornets. But the Hornets have been pretty hot as of late, and they've been a bit of a force to be reckoned with. But I have no doubt in my mind that the Dubs are really going to take care of business. It's not this game that I'm really worried about. It's Thursday's game against the Knicks, who are real title contenders. Because I don't consider the Blazers title contenders, but they are a thorn in the Warriors' side. Now, in this game, I also expect the rest of the team to actually contribute to the offense. I mean, when only Jimmy and Steph were getting into double digits last game, and I think there was one other player. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. It was, it was only DeAnthony Melton was the only other player to get into double figures. That's just a general problem. So I'm looking for guys like Pods, Moody, and maybe even Pat Spencer to get some minutes and really show what they all have, in order to at least show the team who belongs and who doesn't once the trade deadline gets here and the Warriors decide to cut bait with a lot of these guys, because they aren't a fit for the championship chasing team that the Warriors are right now. But speaking of the trade deadline, one of the rumors that I keep hearing over and over and over again is Michael Porter Jr. coming to the Warriors. And as much as I like to brush these rumors aside as slow news day things, this one just will not die. And you know what? If it will not die, it's time to take it out back to the shed. And in taking it out back to the shed, I got to explain why this trade doesn't work. Now, we look at Michael Porter Jr. He's on a very large, a very inflated $38.5 million a year contract. And for the Warriors, that's going to require multiple players in order to bring him in. That's not just Jonathan Kuminga. That's Jonathan Kuminga. That's Moses Moody. And that's Pods. Now, those three players for Michael Porter Jr., sorry, that's way too much for a guy who's pretty much having I want to call it a contract year type of year, as well as being what could be best described as a studio gangster. The Nets are a very bad team, and he's putting up big numbers. And say what you will, yes, he's having career highs shooting from three. He's having career highs in his field goal percentage, career highs in scoring, all of that. But remember, this is the Nets we're talking about. If he isn't going to score, who else on that roster is going to? I could tell you one thing. It's not going to be Cam Thomas. It's not going to be Nick Claxton. It's not going to be any of their young guys who were just drafted. It's not going to be, I think it's Trey Mann, who's coming off the bench. None of those guys are going to be the primary scorers, and there's a reason that the Nets are one of the bottom feeder teams in the league. So just trading for him and giving up like a plethora of young players to go along with what likely will be a draft pick just is not worth it. Now, are there other players that may be worth negotiating with the Nets for? Of course there are. Bringing in Nick Claxton will solve a lot of problems for the Warriors in the middle because he provides that physical presence in the middle that they've been lacking all season. Now, we could talk about Quentin Post, how he's been developing. We can talk about Al Horford, how he's been stretching the floor, but they aren't that physical presence that the Warriors need. Now, you bring in a guy like Claxton, he's preventing second chance opportunities on the defensive end while also offering second chance opportunities on the offensive end. And that's exactly what the Warriors need. And that's the perfect asset for the Warriors. Now, if that costs Kuminga and Pods and maybe a first round pick this year, I'm okay with that. Because you're going to have Nick Claxton for a longer period of time than just this season. Yes, the Warriors could also go after the likes of, say, I want to say Nikolai Vucevic or somebody of that nature. But then again, Vucevic is an older player, and he may not be able to keep up with what the Warriors are trying to do. But again, Michael Porter Jr. is not the guy the Warriors need right now. They need to continue to look around the league, which is why I talked about the Blazers getting a look at Robert Williams, maybe getting a look at Hanson Yang. I mean, odds are they're going to get a look at Donovan Clingan, but they're not going to be able to make a move because of how well the Blazers are playing since letting Chauncey Billups deal with his indictment and Thiago Splitter taking over. But you know what? A Warriors fan can dream. If Donovan Clingan ends up being the guy that the Warriors trade for, I'm all in. But I will say one other guy that the Warriors have to look at, and this is only if things don't work out for them, is Zach Edey. And the reason I say Zach Edey is because, you know what, the Grizzlies might go through a full-on rebuild if they trade Ja and Jaren Jackson, and you don't know where Zach Edey fits into that, so I would not be as surprised if something like that does happen. Yes, there are issues with his overall athleticism and him keeping up, but 7'4". It's so funny. It's just when you're that big, you're like, you ignore all the other red flags. It's like or what's the joke that's going around Instagram right now with the girls loving guys that are 6'5". It's like, oh, he's 6'5". I can ignore all the other red flags. It's the same idea with Zach Edey being a tall center because he can get physical with the likes of Wemby, with the likes of Chet Holmgren, the likes of Isaiah Hartenstein, and even Joker. The problem is he still has to stay healthy, but it's worth a look into. Say the Warriors are able to maneuver, make some shrewd trades instead of making just a really dumb buying a player who from a team that's trying to sell high on him. So just wipe the idea of Michael Porter Jr. coming to the Warriors from your mind. As much flack as we'd like to give the Warriors for their moves this offseason, they aren't that dumb to get a player who pretty much everybody knows is just putting up big numbers on a bad team, though he still has the potential to be a great player. One good year is not going to prove that. Now, fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, again, I'm looking at the Warriors-Blazers game, specifically at Jeremy Grant to go over his normal 18.5 points per game, and then for Draymond Green to go higher than his 7.5 assists per game. Download the app today and use promo code BASKETBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BasketballFan. Underdog. Make picks, win money. Now, with the last few games, we've noticed a bit of a disconnect, especially with the Hawks loss. We saw that connection the first two games, but I noticed something the other day in that Hawks loss from what Coach Kerr was saying, as well as what Steph was saying. And it's clear that they're not on the same page, and that is really problematic. Now, there's an old saying that dates back years and years ago, I want to say at least 20 years, that Coach Popovich put into play. There needs to be synergy between ownership and the president of the team and the general manager and the coach and his players. Now, look, there seems to be some synergy up here, like from the management perspective all the way down to the coach, but there is definitely a disconnect between Steph and Coach Kerr. And that disconnect I'm talking about is the overall reason why the Warriors lost against the Hawks. Now, Coach Kerr says, yes, it was the turnovers. We're trying to get better at that. And I agree, turnovers did play a part in it. But since he wasn't on the floor, and what Steph talks about is the main issue was the Warriors being unable to dish it into the middle and at least have some sort of interior presence. And this harps back to the fact that they lack a serious post-game center, which they do need after acquiring before or at the trade deadline. And them not having the same idea or being on the same page is problematic because from Steph's perspective, they had 5 guys at the perimeter for the majority of the game on offense, and it made it difficult to score because they had no one to dish it into to get an easy bucket. The defense would collapse on, then they dish it back out to a perimeter player to get a wide open 3. And for Steph and Coach Kerr to see two different things when it was like I get Coach Kerr's whole idea about turnovers and that being a consistent issue for the entire season, and it has. But you have to address all issues when looking at a loss, and that big man or lack thereof is another issue. You can't place it solely on the turnovers as the reason the Warriors lost. Yes, turnovers were at their worst with 16 versus the Hawks, but you got to acknowledge the fact that, yes, not having a serious interior presence did hurt your chance as well, because when they're playing all guys at the perimeter, a lot of these guys are as big, if not bigger, than Steph, then Draymond, then Jimmy, then Will Richard, then who else? Then Al Horford, and that's just going to be problematic when you're trying to take constant threes. So the Warriors need to do something to get on the same page and understand what they need to do to continue winning moving forward. Because bottom line is, again, they need to be on the same page. They need to acquire a guy that not only fixes the problems that Coach Kerr is having with those turnovers by getting rid of some of the guys that are just not being careful or responsible with the ball, but also bringing in what Steph needs in a guy with serious interior presence, like a Vucevic, like a Nick Claxton, or even like a Zach Edey. Just a guy who can draw attention away from the perimeter players and then dish it quickly back out for a quick catch and shoot 3. But once the Warriors get on the same page, they're going to continue to win and continue to make their moves up the standings. But until they get on the same page, it's going to be a rough one from here on out, but I doubt it will last any longer than the next few games. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, a big thank you to Underdog for sponsoring today's video, and a thanks to all you guys for liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. And if you have any other ideas on big men or just overall players that the Warriors could acquire or should acquire at the deadline, and it could be guys that you don't really see coming, but it's more not so much a hot take, but a conspiracy take. Like there is precedent to do it, even though you don't think the team will do it. But if offered the right deal, they will do it. Feel free to comment those ideas below, as I love hearing your thoughts. And as always, go Dubs.